because I was looking at the TV ratings for the World Cup over the last 25 years, and the peak was the biggest TV rating to this day was 2015. It was a 2014 or 2015, the women's soccer team. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, oh, is that the one that probably had like Megan Rapinoe and all these kind of charismatic young ladies that were, very well marketed and, very outspoken and had these strong personalities. And I think that helps to help capture the American audience, that's not like hardcore soccer fans, but in general, it is going up. I don't know if, I mean, there's so many, some places like LA and Seth, I mean, LA probably wants the thing there too, but they also don't want the traffic. So I imagine if Trump is pulling away the World Cup, they're like, okay, well, at least we'll be able to get to work on time.
Hmm. Interesting.
I don't see him. Maybe it's a threat that he follows through on. I don't think it's gonna. I mean, and I do think people would be bummed because it's for those cities. It's almost less about the fandom than the economic windfall that you get from every fan base. From 4 nations or, coming to your city and spending all that money. And I think it'd be devastating economically for a couple of those. I mean, not devastating, but they all have their own gross national product, their own GDP. But I think it would hurt them, and I think it would be really it's just another polarization moment that just makes everybody pissed off.
Yeah. Having said that, Bakersfield would be quite happy to be getting it.
Oh my God. The road from Bakersfield to Taft might be the worst drive in the history of driving, ever. It's just like Lev, it's just these oil fields.
Oh, I'm very familiar with
Well,
it.
I think we talked about this once, actually.
Yeah, I would go to summer camp up in the hills above Bakersfield and pass through Oildale, the
Yeah.
hometown of
Dale.
Merle Haggard. Merle
Mhm.
Haggard's hometown.
But Oildale, and I'm going to be the first mention of racism in the podcast. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. Oildale's got to be one of the most racist towns in California. But no,
Is it?
I think the symbolic shift would be a lot that Trump would love to do. But I agree with you, Mike. I think these are just outbursts that he's having right now because he's flailing and all that. Can we talk about this thing that I think is more your issue than my issue? Because Mike, I was I followed Lane Kiffin since he was with Pete Carroll. I think I was saying
Yeah.
he was quarterbacks coach back in the day, when, who was it? Mark Sanchez was a backup. I remember going this is so sad, though. Mark Sanchez, I was at a practice one day. He handed off to Joe McKnight, who ripped off like a 60-yard run. Do you remember Joe McKnight, Lev? Any chance?
Yeah.
Died in a swimming accident. He was a great running back. Yeah, really strong running back. I think he went in the third round, but yeah. Anyway, that particular day, the second team beat the first team. It was really exciting. I remember Lane Kiffin being there. Really great time to be around USC football. But I thought he was a mover and a shaker back then. Obviously, I didn't see the ceiling of Lane Kiffin, but I caught just enough of
Mm.
this. I'm going to use the only in journalism word, imbroglio, last week, and so I only have the big sketches. What offends you so much about what Lane Kiffin did last week? I thought it
Well,
was, I thought it was Lane being Lane.
yeah, it's the same guy, but it's, and I'm of the opinion that the only people screwed in all these things now in college are the fans, because they're the last bastion of people that really have any be true to your school loyalty. Nobody else cares. It's a mercenary system now with the kids and the coaches. I can't stand the coaches when they're like, "Oh, this portal system." You've been in a portal system your whole career. You've left teams and left, and shunned players, but it was beyond the pale in some ways, where he just basically says, "Nah, I don't really want to talk to you guys. This LSU job is coming up, and I'm leaving. and I'm not gonna even be able to talk to the players about leaving. All the guys that I recruited and told them, their moms and dads, I would take care of them. They were family, were part of the Ole Miss family. And really, there's no family. They're just, it's all a business transaction. But the part that got me was when, and I didn't care about all that. Leave for more money. I don't care. What got me was the part where he said, like, he had a conversation with God, and
Yeah.
God told him to go to LSU. And I'm just thinking, I haven't reached the almighty for, confirmation or denial lately, but, I gotta think, you know, when the history of the world is written, Lane Kiffin doesn't get a fucking line. And at no point is God going, I do got the Ukraine situation. Um, these Venezuelan boat strikes are bugging the shit out of me. But god damn it, I think Lane should go to LSU. Like, come on. Get over yourself. Why I don't know, why insult the fan base? Why why use religion as, camouflage for your greed? It's just bullshit. All he had to say was, "It's a better deal, it's a higher profile program, and I wanna make this move. I've done what I can at Ole Miss. Thank you for the memories." But they can't do that. They have to play this whole game, and I just like, there's no transparency. That's what bugs me.
Huh, huh, huh.
It could be by God, he meant his Jewish accountant. Sorry, I don't know.
That's great.
I'm sure he, I
Anti-Semitism from there alone.
I'm sure Lane Kiffin is a super religious man. You know, God told him to cheat when he was at USC too, right? Like, he told him
Right,
to switch
exactly.
the uniform numbers or whatever it was that happened, I don't remember, but, um,
I don't know
I mean,
about this one, man.
he's a soulless carpetbagger, but, he's also a good football coach, and that's okay. A lot of them are. I just can't deal with these sort of, all these guys.
I
Um,
can't remember his dad's name, the guy that he would coached, he was the
Monty
Tampa
Kidd.
Bay
yeah, Monty Kiffin, the
Monte
great
Kiffin,
defensive
that guy
court.
was a coach.
Yeah.
Well, Lane had to absorb some of that. I don't think he's a bad coach by any stretch. I mean, he's had the success has followed,
Yeah.
but soulless would be the word to use. And I always feel like I'm fulfilling the stereotype, the politics over sports, but at a certain point, how aren't we culpable for empowering these people, these cultural carpetbaggers? They don't really do much for society, and we make them important. There's no show without us. Oh,
They're the new, like, sort of preachers under the tent. They're the Elmer Gantrys of the new millennium in some ways, because football is a religion in America, and especially when you cloak it in the flag and religion, all of a sudden you've got, this isn't just a football team. This is a community of great-minded souls, and it becomes such, and all these guys, I mean, it is kinda cool to go to a little town like Durham, North Carolina, or I don't know, shoot, even Spokane, Washington now, like, and like how these guys, the Mark Few's, the Krzyzewskis, for years in Tallahassee, Bobby Bowden, they like literally they're kings of their own fiefdoms, and they're like lord over these whole communities. It is pretty amazing to watch, and there's no question they lift those communities up with, what they can bring to making their football team successful. It's just, at some point I just want, like, even Phil Jackson, at some point I was like, okay, I know you're spiritual, you're like, you're not saving the world, you're a glorified gym teacher who gets ego driven men to play well together. Like, if you want to, if you want to talk about real giving back, go freaking be a monk for a year. Go give to the needy and poor. Like, I can't deal with these guys. Like, they're bettering society, and God is telling them to go these places so they can become these messengers. Messengers for what? A 5-star recruit?
can we take the little bit of Phil Jackson there to start talking hoops? I know we want to talk hoops, but
Anywhere any segues, we do segues on this show better than Arsenio Hall did back in the day.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Boo, 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 boo.
Well, I used to
I
love it. I used to love it. Be like, "Woo, woo, woo," and he'd be like, yeah, he'd have like whatever it was, Whitney Houston or something on, and he goes, "Man, I love that new album, man. How'd your alcoholic mother?" It would just be like, holy crap. He would just switch the subject.
I wanted to talk since we're being subtle. I want to talk about white stars. Because I noticed in your note you said white superstars, and I was like, slow down. I don't know that we have any white superstars yet, but we do have these
Yeah,
people on every team. What's his name? Con
finally,
Knipple? Con Knipple? Oh my god.
Concanoopel.
They're all over.
Concanoopel, yeah, Concanoopel, Knipple, who cares? That guy, he was on Jimmy Fallon the other day. I
No.
couldn't believe it. Yes, Jimmy Fallon had him on as a guest. I don't
That's
think
a little
Jimmy said,
soon. Is that white privilege or what? I mean, come on. He's a good rookie. Why is he on? Why's Con
"No,
Knipple?
I think Lev and I can both attest to this, Danelle. It's about time to get rid of DEI in basketball. It's been going on too long. And we gotta get the White brothers back." No,
Yeah.
no, it is well, okay, you're right. Superstars is a little much. And I did pitch The Athletic on us, but I think one of their beat writers, they didn't want me to Bigfoot him. But it was the whole idea of like, does Cooper Flag have any pressure of being the next Larry Bird? I think they definitely don't even have the same kind of games. But I'll say this. This is the first time in a while where I've looked around the league and almost every decent team has got a really good player who happens to be Caucasian. And throw even take out the European guys, Doncic and Jokic and all these guys. But I look, Austin Reeves, Tyler Hero, shoot, who am I?
There's a bunch on every team. They're
Concanu, Cooper Flag.
rotation players. A lot of rotation players.
No, but like Austin
Gillespie.
Reeves is going to be an all-star this
Oh
year.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah. And
but I
we were
think I guess what I would say is the only white player I knew like I'm saying 10, 12 years ago, maybe, or maybe even 5, 6 years ago. The only white player I could even name was like Kevin Love, like
yeah.
that really
So
had,
okay,
it was sort of in the mainstream. And I only say this because Klay Thompson's cousin, Andy Thompson, who's a photographer at the NBA, we had breakfast at the All-Star game in LA, and he was like, and I was telling him how my kid's not a bad ball player. And I go like, but all these parents, they don't want their white kids playing basketball for a long time because they think that they're not going to get the scholarship because it's obviously the black culture that it's the game of the city, and it's like that's such bullshit. And he said it was bullshit, and he goes, it's a real problem because they were doing a set of public service announcements at the time. This was 2018, and Andy was like helping out with these, and he goes, "The only white player we have doing a PSA is Kevin Love," and
okay.
he goes, "It's a
So wait,
problem
let
that
me
these
stop you.
parents." He was saying that their parents were pushing their kids toward lacrosse, soccer, and other things because they thought they couldn't compete for D1 scholarships with black kids,
I
and
get that.
which
I
I
get that. But that's 2018, and when we're looking out the court now, we're seeing something very different. Kevin Love is still in the league, which is insane to me. And that guy
yeah.
can't play him 15 minutes a game. What's changed, Mike? You're out there, you see young people playing. I know you're in another country, but what has changed?
Here's just my thought off the top. Well, one, the European game has sort of made basketball so intercon. It's just it is America's game, and we still have the best and most amount of great players, and we always will. But there are the teaching in these other countries, Argentina, France, Spain, all these places, they move the ball. They get the whole idea of the sublime choreography of teamwork, and so do the US kids, but now they're catching up. I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is this whole personal training thing. it's like, and in its own way, it's like I always go like, why aren't there more black swimmers in the Montgomery County Swimming League? There's a lot of black people in Montgomery County. Well, they don't go, they don't have the pools in these neighborhoods. They don't have the equipment. Swimming's an expensive sport. If you got to go, you got to belong to a pool or club, to be a part of it. And not all. And I go, yeah, but I just don't understand why were they in the black. It's not genetics. That's bullshit. And I think that, believe it or not, I think there are a lot of, well, white kids and kids whose parents are well off that happen to be black and brown who get personal training sessions from 6 and 7 years old on, that a lot of the people who made up the backbone of the NBA, the inner city black child, cannot afford anymore. And and they don't get selected to these AAU teams like some of these kids do that are hyper trained by so many guys. And I think part of it is like there is a next generation of NBA, all these NBA fathers that played and their kids are now playing. That to me is part of it. But I really think that there was a mystique about the inner city player at one point
Uh-huh.
where it's like, oh shit, we're going up against KG in Chicago. Oh, he's gonna fucking give us 40. Oh no, oh baby. No, it's not like that. These kids play each other time and time again in these 5-star camps. And so there's no fear level anymore. There's no fear factor anymore. It's like I already played against him. He's not, yeah, he comes from a bad neighborhood. Yeah, his mom can't afford groceries, and God bless America that somebody from some school can now pay him and not be suspended. But that kid is not the bedrock of the NBA anymore. And I'm not going to say it's flat out racism, but I do have a problem with the fact that a lot of these kids cannot afford the personal trainers that kids like my kid could. I pay, I'm from 8 years old on. Oliver is 15 now. I've had him trained by a G League coach, a college coach, and everything. And he's gone to some of the best camps that money could buy. And I did it because I thought it, would help him. And I had the disposable income. But a lot of families don't anymore, which is just crazy to me.
Well, isn't that what happened to baseball? I mean, baseball went that way of the traveling teams and the expense of
Travel
all.
teams.
Yeah. Can I do something that's not so broad based? But my explanation of a white player's success, Lev loves when I talk
Yeah.
of loves when I talk about Austin Reeves, but I have followed the Austin Reeves career. The Lakers, objectively, we'll come back to full blown Lakers talk later, Lev. But the Austin Reeves I watched him from his rookie year when it went from the is this guy going to make the team? Is this guy really going to become a rotation player? Is he really going to become a starter? Is he going to be an all-star? I've watched all these phases and it's been as fun as watching anybody grow. But watching him in his first and second year, and I'm going to blank on the sequence of the players being with him, but I watched Westbrook impact him, and I watched Pat Beverly impact him. And he was not going to get punked out there because he had to face those dudes on the bench. And I think that's a thing that comes from playing, because I remember good white players growing up, but you had to play with the black players. And, those Eastern European guys, that's like playing in the hood. It's like play rough. Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I think that made a big an impact on Reeves. And this year he's better because I think his body's better. And obviously having Luca makes it a little easier. But that's my
I don't know
racial.
that totally it actually sums it up better than my 10 minutes could. Lev, what do you think?
I you know, I think Austin Reeves he's a good player. I mean, and I think you're right, Danelle, playing with those other cats that aren't gonna give you an inch, that are gonna be up in your face, probably helps. Um, I think it is like the LeBron Luca factor the most. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say that because Austin played a lot last year without those guys, I guess, or the year before. But I do think playing with LeBron and Luca brings the performance of a team up, and we've had this conversation before. I did want to say about the Lakers, though. I did a quick little research when I knew you were going to bring up the Lakers, and you said in your own words they're all of a sudden look like a possible finals contender. I don't think that they're going to get past OKC, but I was like, okay, who have the Lakers played in the last month? And I see, okay, so starting November 8th, they lost to the Atlanta Hawks. The next game, they beat Charlotte Hornets. Good job. Then they lost. Then the next game they lost to OKC by about 30 points. Oh, and then they beat the Pelicans, and then they beat the Bucks, and then they beat the Jazz 2 games in a row, and then they beat the Clippers, and then they beat the Mavericks, and then they beat the Pelicans again, and they lost to the Phoenix Suns, and then lately they beat the Raptors, and then they got trounced by the Celtics, and they squeaked out a win over Philadelphia. So I want to see the Lakers like 40 games from now, like see how healthy they are, right? Because it all kind of depends on Luka and LeBron's health.
Yeah.
Without us, I mean, without those guys, maybe they can compete for a play-in, but those guys
You
have a tendency to get hurt. So
yeah.
I just want to let's bring down the Laker hype a little bit. Let's see where they are in 40 games. And
The Lakers always have
they're
hype.
playing better than I thought they would.
They always have hype, but you have to also, while you're making that very funny list of wins, they did a lot of that without LeBron. They did a lot of that without
I
LeBron
love
James.
But with Luka, who's
I
some people say he's best player in the league,
Yeah, but I love Lev, though. I love when I heard you were gonna be talking about Lakers, I did some research. You looked at the schedule. What kind of research is
Yeah,
that?
Hey,
What the
hey,
hell is that? Like,
I came with some facts.
it's like, oh my God, that's hilarious.
Uh,
You don't know all this I mean, like I was like, anyway, the Warriors had like 6 games in so many days on a road trip recently, and everybody was pissed off because Steve Kerr rested Curry and Jimmy Butler in Miami his first trip back, and like and I heard Brian Scalabrine on the starting lineup where they saw their NBA show in the morning, and he made a great point as a player, and he goes, if you're a coach and you got 6 games in this many days, and you played 19 games on the road already when all these other teams have played, for whatever reason, the schedule works out this way. Why would you want these guys to play that game? And so I think that the same way with the Lakers, I think there's some games where JJ Redick and that staff get together and they go, all right, whatever load management is, we're going to put it down for Luka tonight, or we're going to put it down for LeBron James. And I think going back to almost Shaq and Kobe and those Lakers, you could almost see a pattern of teams that have been there, or they've had champions either on other teams or whatever that have been there, that their sole goal is to get right and ready for the playoffs. And if they come into the season with 49 wins, it doesn't matter to them to have 59 or 60 because they feel like they're healthy and their veterans are good to go. And we've seen this happen with, back in the day with the Rockets and all these teams that like bumbled into the playoffs and then ended up going on an incredible run. And I think the older teams especially can do that. I'm kind of, I mean, I get what you're saying about Oklahoma City. That's going to be a tough task. I think Denver's right there still. But if the Lakers got a shot to do it again in the LeBron era, and he's going to retire this year and next, I got to think that this might be it. This might be their window right here. And I think they'll have more windows with Luka and Austin Reeves and whoever else they bring in. But I don't think I think those windows will go away for a couple years. I just do. And I think they could get far in the playoffs. I don't think they can win it all until those guys grow up a little and some other people retire. Um, so I'm with Danelle. I'm on the Lakers bandwagon. I think I think they've got a great shot to go all the way this year. And the thing is, and I said this at the beginning of our last NBA podcast, if you ever had a year in the NBA where you could say 7 or 8 teams could end up on the days with the trophy at the end, this is the year. I could pick 6 teams that I think could lift the NBA trophy depending on what happens with other teams.
Yeah, I think this is back where we were at the start of the season, where I feel like
The Portland Trail Blazers are not one of those.
you guys are
Hey,
really,
I will say,
you're
all right,
underplaying.
so I will say,
Can I say the thing? You guys are both really underplaying
yeah.
OKC. I don't know why you do that. Please go on.
Well, I'm not underplaying OKC. I've said OKC is probably the top team right now. Besides them, like say if Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or injures his knee, then that opens up the door for the Lakers or these 5 other teams. I mean, they are on pace to have the best record in the history of the sport. They've only lost 1 game against the Portland Trail Blazers. And also I think the Trailblazers kind of suck, but they have had up to this point the toughest schedule in the league, in terms of everyone that they've played, combined record and such. But I don't know. I'm kind of losing interest in the Blazers again because I feel like not that anybody really cares beyond myself. But they fall into this pattern ever since, ever since they went to the Western Conference Finals, they beat Denver, went into the Western Conference Finals, is they hype up all this promise and young and developing. Oh, we're developing, and we brought in Chauncey Billups, and oh, but these guys are hurt, so they're going to sit out, and then we'll just try and get a good, then they'll kind of tank and try and get a good draft pick, and then fuck up their draft pick. But they've just fallen back into it again this year. Like they started off strong, and then now they're just kind of suck. And anyway, so I'm no longer believing that the Blazers are a viable playoff team.
So
I think they're gonna just keep like
you just wasted
what?
our time with this mediocre
Jeez.
basketball team. No, I find them
Wait, wait, wait.
interesting.
No, no. No, wait,
But
wait, 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 wait. Now, breaking news: the Blazers may not be a playoff team this year.
Breaking
Like, what
news!
the fuck?
Breaking news!
I got things to do in life. No, I'm kidding. I actually love it because you speak from the heart of a fan
Yeah,
that like every town has a guy like you that goes, the Grizzlies, they could get in the second round, but I don't know, and stop persecuting Ja. He can do finger guns whenever he wants. But all right.
I just think that the Lakers are inherently interesting. I want to make clear, I'm not like a Lakers fan. I think they're the most interesting team. You cannot have three figures like that. They're big three, and then the the mystery of um, DeAndre Ayton. That's another conundrum. Interesting thing there. Rui's interesting, and I'm trying not to root for these teams with shitty ownership. Right now, out there, the what's the name of the NBA Cup is going on right now. As soon as this call ends, I'm gonna
There's
duck
two,
out.
there's two semis. There's two semis tonight where they screwed up
Yeah.
the court for this cup.
Oh, old man,
Yeah,
old man.
I'm sure it'll catch up. Yeah,
But
I'm sure it'll catch on at some. I look. Well, I'll just say this around your Laker talk. Let me cut him just for one sec. LeBron James' streak of double doubles, which went back to like 2008, was broken the other night when he dished off to Rui Hachimura at the end for the
it's
game winner.
amazing.
I mean, you
It's
can't.
amazing.
Your streak cannot go down better than that. Like he gave it up for the good of the group, and it's just like I'm not saying it's destiny, but I just, I'm so done with LeBron. I'm just so done with LeBron haters. Like I just want the guy to have a good ending, and maybe that ending isn't an NBA title. But damn it, if he could go out in 6 or 7 in the Western Conference Finals to the OKC Thunder, the Denver Nuggets, that to me is a great ending for that guy.
Well, to be honest with you, I think if they did get one more wing player, and I know there aren't a lot of two-way wings who are
Yeah.
available, but that's really the missing piece, because they're playing them they're going to be playing on. I'm expecting in the low post more, just to take a little bit of the ball handling stuff off of him, and I just he can't guard threes. They don't trust Gerald, what's his name, the they have
Vanderbilt.
Jared
Yeah.
Vanderbilt. Marcus Smart is out more than he's in. They could realistically have a chance of competing, and as Lev likes to put it, if there's an injury in OKC, they could be there. They could be right there, and I think they could beat most of the teams in the East. I do.
Well,
Um,
yeah, all you need is a Tyrese Halliburton or Jason Tatum Achilles tear. My God, the things we root for now, awful.
Um, going back to I'm sorry, just two thing too. Like going back to the load management question. Didn't Jordan just come out and he was like, "Load management? What the fuck is that? That's not going to help." And I think it makes sense logically, but haven't like the Clippers been like load managing for the last 3 years, and then they get into playoffs and they're healthy, but they've got like zero chemistry. So just a little bit of pushback on the idea of load management, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I do think that there is a tendency to baby players in some respects, but, if whatever, if a guy is older, I have no problem resting him for a game. I mean, the
Well, like
best
LeBron, I think is somebody that should rest whenever he wants because he's
yeah.
got more mileage than anybody in the league right now. If
I
you
mean,
once you count,
Greg Popovich, I remember, had the greatest sort of did not play for Duncan, and they said, well, like, what was the reason did not play? And he just put old. And it was great, and it was like it sort of summed up a generation of players that have, really put in the mileage and they need to be rested a little bit. Just one more note about the Lakers. Is there anybody who has that kind of longevity as a public address announcer anywhere in the league? Lawrence Tanter, the Laker girls.
Yeah,
Like, the same guy for all those. I remember Andy Schick used to do it or something for Boston, but he ended up like at Northeastern, and now they got it. Pitino got him out of there. Like, does anybody have a public address? Do the Blazers have the same PA announcers they had when Walton won the championship? To me, I don't know. The guy sits behind the thing 82, 41 nights a year. I'm kind of blown away by by that longevity for like a guy in an industry like that.
yeah.
the
Can I
Blazers do
can I
have
ask
this guy. I think his name is like Mark.
Yeah.